everyone, my name is Mimi Wu, and I'm a nutritionist with the Nutrition, Education, Training, and Technical Assistance Division at USDA's Food and Nutrition Service and Child Nutrition Programs. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar on Ingrained, Easy Tools to Determine Serving Amounts. This webinar is part of Team Nutrition's CACFP Halftime 30 on Thursdays webinar series. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available at a later date on the Team Nutrition website. We will have time at the end of this webinar to take questions. You can use the chat box at any time during the webinar to enter your questions, and we'll try to answer as many as we can at the end of today's webinar. So, as I mentioned, I am so thrilled to be here today to talk about Team Nutrition's newest worksheet titled Using Ounce Equivalents for Grains in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. You all should have this worksheet in front of you. If not, you can download it from the web address on the screen. This web address will also pop up or has already popped up in the chat box on your screen now. So, in the CACFP, grains are measured in units that we call ounce equivalents. 1 ounce equivalent of grains is the amount of food you need to make up 16 grams of grains. So this worksheet starts out by giving you pictures of how much a grain item you might need to make up 1 ounce equivalent. As you can see, you need 20 small cheese crackers, or 12 thin wheat crackers, or 5 woven whole wheat crackers to make up 1 ounce equivalent of grains. So you notice that for these 3 examples, they're all the same type of food. They're all crackers, but you may need more or fewer crackers depending on the size of the food to make up your ounce equivalents of grains. You need more of the smaller crackers and fewer of the larger crackers to get that 1 ounce equivalent of grains. So pages 2 through 4 of your worksheet includes the grains measuring chart. This chart includes household measures of over 40 common grain items listed in alphabetical order. Each item is listed with the amount of an item you need to make up a ½ ounce equivalent of grains, which is the minimum amount of grains required for 1 through 5-year-olds at all CACFP meals and snacks. Each item is also listed with the amount you need to make up 1 ounce equivalent of grains, which is the minimum amount of grains that 6 through 18-year-olds need at meals and snacks. If you choose to serve grains to adult participants as part of a CACFP snack, you must serve at least 1 ounce equivalent of grains as well. Finally, each grain item in this chart is listed with the amount of an item you need to make up 2 ounce equivalents of grains. 2 ounce equivalents of grains is the minimum amount of grains required for adult participants at breakfast, lunch, and supper. So as I mentioned, this chart has over 40 grain items that might be commonly served in the CACFP. If you want to serve a grain item that's not listed in this chart, we will talk about other tools you can use toward the end of today's webinar. We designed this chart to be grab and go so that someone could literally just pick it up and start using it. But for those who might like more instructions, we also include steps on how to use this chart on page 1 of the worksheet. So let's go back and take a look at page 1 now. So as you can see, directions for how to use the chart are at the bottom of the first page. And our first step is to find the grain you want to serve under the grain item and size column. So let's say you're so excited about popcorn now being credible, so you want to serve it as snacks to your 5-year-olds at your child care site. So you find popcorn in your chart, and that's what that arrow is pointing to, that row that says popcorn. So after you find the item you want to serve, check and see if the chart lists the size or weight by the name of the grain item. Popcorn is just listed as popcorn. There's no size next to it. There's no weight listed next to it. So we don't need to do anything else. We don't need to see if it weighs a certain amount or if it's a certain size. We can move on to the next step. So our third step is find the column for the age of your participant and the meal or snack you are serving. We said we want to serve popcorn to 5-year-olds at snack, so we look for the 1 through 5-year-olds column and follow that column all the way down to the popcorn row. The popcorn row and the 1 through 5-year-olds column intersect or meet each other at 1½ cups. So now we know we need to serve 1½ cups of popcorn to meet the minimum amount of grains required for 1 through 5-year-olds at snack in the CACFP. So, let's practice what we just learned with a quick knowledge check. We'll show you all a poll in a minute where you can click on the screen to answer the question, but first, let's take a look at this question together. This question asks, you want to serve oatmeal to 6-year-olds at breakfast. How many cups of cooked oatmeal do you need to serve to meet minimum required amounts of grains at breakfast in the CACFP? Do you need to serve 1 cup of cooked oatmeal, 2 cups of cooked oatmeal, a 1/4 cup of cooked oatmeal, or a 1/2 cup of cooked oatmeal? You can use the grains measuring chart in your worksheet or the chart shown on the slide to help you answer this question. You should now see a polling box in the bottom right of your screen. So once you have your answer, please go ahead and select the circle next to your answer choice. If you don't see a box, no worries. You can also just submit your answer in the chat box by typing the letter that corresponds with the answer. All right. Okay, I love seeing all these answers come in. Nice work. This is going great. Great answers, everybody. Okay, I'm going to count down. You're going to get 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, beautiful job, everybody. The answer is D, 1/2 cup of cooked oatmeal. So this means you need to serve at least a 1/2 cup of cooked oatmeal to each 6-year-old in order to meet the minimum required amount of grains at breakfast for 6-year-olds. So let's take a look at how we got that answer. First, we find the food we want to serve, which is oatmeal. Step 2 tells us that the oatmeal does not have any weights or sizes listed next to it, right? It just says oatmeal. So we don't need to check the size of our oatmeal or weight to note that we can use this chart. Our next step is to find the age of the participants in the meal. We are serving 6-year-olds at breakfast, so we follow the 6 through 18-year-old columns down to the oatmeal row. If you look at where the 6 through 18-year-old column meets the oatmeal row, it tells us that we need to serve a 1/2 cup of cooked oatmeal to meet the 1 ounce equivalent required of grains at breakfast for this age group. So now, as I mentioned, the popcorn and the oatmeal do not have any weights or sizes listed next to it. However, some items in this chart will have weights or sizes listed next to it. So let's take a closer look at how you would use this chart for those types of foods. So our first step is always the same. We have to find our food in our chart. So let's take a look now for this example at mini twist hard pretzels. They're sometimes called mini twists or tiny twists, and an example of the pretzels is shown on the screen as well, just so you have an idea of what food we're talking about. So step 2 tells us that if a chart lists a size by the grain, such as 1 1/4 inches by 1 1/2 inches, then we need to check if our item is the same size or larger than the amount listed here in the chart. Page 6 of this worksheet gives us more information about measuring and sizes. So let's take a look at page 6 now. The bottom of page 6 has a section called Grains and Measuring Tools that you can use to see if your item is the same size or larger than what's listed in the grains measuring chart. You will see that there are some shapes for common crackers and grains, such as your circle or your squares, and there's also a ruler at the bottom. So, if you had a grain item that matches the shape in the grains measuring tools, you can measure the item with a ruler on the bottom, and you can see that on the screen with a cracker labeled option 1. You could also place the grain item over the shape and see if the item was the same size or larger as you see with a cracker labeled option 2. Either method of measuring would be correct. The grain item in our example was pretzels, and because there's no pretzel shape in the grains measuring tools, we will use the ruler at the bottom to measure our pretzel. So this ruler shows us that this pretzel is about 1 1/2 inches across. Let's rotate this pretzel to see how tall or how it measures the other way. This ruler shows that the pretzel is 1 1/2 inches tall as well. So now we know that this pretzel is about 1 1/2 inches wide by 1 1/2 inches tall. So now that we've measured our pretzel, let's do another polling question. Taking a look at the pretzel in our example, are these pretzels the same size or larger than the mini pretzels listed in the grains measuring chart? Remember that each one of our pretzels measures 1 1/2 inches by 1 1/2 inches. So please go ahead and select the circle next to your answer choice in the poll. And again, if you don't see a poll, you can always submit your answer in the chat box by typing your answer. Great. Okay, I see some answers coming in. Nice work, everyone. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, great job, everybody. The answer is yes. These pretzels are larger than the ones listed on the chart, since 1½ inches by 1½ inches is larger than 1 1/4 inches by 1½ inches. Now, we know we can use the grains measuring chart to see how many pretzels to serve. So now that we know we can use the grains measuring chart with this pretzel, our last step is to find the column for the age of your participants in the meal or snack you are serving. So, you guys know what's coming. Let's practice that with yet another polling question. This time, our question says, you want to serve pretzels to 8-year-olds at snack. How many mini twist hard pretzels do you need to serve to meet the minimum amount of grains at snack in the CACFP? Do you need to serve 7 pretzel twists, 11 pretzel twists, 14 pretzel twists, or 27 twists? Again, you can use the grains measuring chart in your worksheet, or you can use the chart that's shown on the slide to help you answer this question. Once you have your answer, go ahead and click on the circle next to your answer in the poll, or again, you can type your answer into the chat box. All right, nice work, everybody. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, beautiful, everyone. So as most of you answered, we need to serve 14 mini twist hard pretzels to meet the minimum amount required for grains for 8-year-olds at snacks in the CACFP. So let's take a look at how we got that answer. First, we found the food we wanted to serve, which was listed as pretzel, hard, mini twist. Step 2 showed us that the pretzel had a measurement next to it, so we made sure our pretzel was the same size or larger than the measurement on the chart. Because our pretzels were larger, we knew we could use the grains measuring chart to see how many pretzels we needed to meet the minimum amount of grains required at CACFP meals and snacks. Our last step was to find the age of our participants in the meal. We are serving 8-year-olds at snack, and 8-year-olds fall into the age group of 6 through 18-year-olds. We follow the 6 through 18-year-old column down to the pretzel hard mini twist row. If you look at where the 6 through 18-year-old column meets that pretzel row, it tells us that we need to serve 14 hard mini twist pretzels to meet the minimum amount of grains required at snacks for this age group. Nice work, everyone. So far, we've talked about what you do if you have a grain that doesn't have a weight or measurement next to it, and that was with our popcorn or our oatmeal. And we also talked about what you do if it has a measurement next to it, like with our mini twist pretzels. Now, let's talk about what to do if you find your item in step 1, and the item has a weight next to it, like pita bread. Step 2 tells us that if the chart lists the minimum weight by the grain, such as 56 grams, then you need to use the nutrition facts label for the item to make sure that the item weighs the same or more than the grain on the chart. So let's go ahead and do that now. When we look at the nutrition facts label, we'll be looking at the information in the serving size line. This label for brand P pita bread round shows us that 1 serving of brand P pita round weighs 57 grams. This label also tells us that there is 1 pita round in 1 serving. So therefore, we know that 1 gram P pita round weighs 57 grams. So, now that we know that 1 pita round weighs 57 grams, we can compare the weight of 1 pita round to the weight listed next to the pita bread in the chart. So again, we're going to do this as one of my favorites. We're going to do it as a polling question. Our question asks, does 1 brand P pita round weigh the same or more than the pita bread listed in the grains measuring chart? Take a look at your worksheet now. Does 1 brand P pita round weigh the same or more than the pita bread listed in the grains measuring chart? So once you have your answer, please go ahead and select the circle next to your answer choice in the poll, or again, you can type the answer in your chat box. Okay, wonderful. We'll let a couple more answers come in. Great job, everybody. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, beautiful job, everybody. Yes, 1 gram pita round weighs the same as or more than the pita bread listed in the chart. And again, we know the answer is yes because the weight by the pita bread in the chart is at least 56 grams. The nutrition fact label for a gram pita round tells us that 1 pita round weighs 57 grams. Because 1 gram pita round weighs more than the pita listed in the grains measuring chart, we know we can use a chart to tell us how many gram pita rounds in order to serve to meet CACFP meal pattern requirements. So, now that we've made sure and checked that the gram pita rounds weigh the same or more than the pita bread listed in the grains measuring chart, our last step is to find the column for the age group participants in the meal or snack you are serving. All right, guys, here's another polling question. This time, the question asks, you want to serve pita bread to 3-year-olds at lunch. How many gram pita rounds do you need to serve to meet the minimum required amount of grains at lunch in the CACFP? Do you need to serve 1/4 of a pita round, 1/2 of a pita round, 1 pita round, or 2 pita rounds? And again, you can use the grains measuring chart in your worksheet, or you can use the chart shown on the slide to help you answer this question. Once you have your answer, please select the circle next to your answer in the poll, or type your answer in the chat box. Wonderful, everyone. I love seeing all these answers come in. Okay, I'm going to give you guys about 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, beautiful work again, guys. We need to serve 1/4 of a gram pita round to meet the minimum amount required for grains for 3-year-olds at lunch in the CACFP. Nice work, everyone. And as you guys know, to get our answer, we found the food we wanted to serve, which was listed as pita bread/round. Step 2 showed us that the pita bread had a weight of at least 56 grams next to it, so we made sure the pita bread we wanted to serve was the same size or larger than the measurement on our chart. Because the pita bread we wanted to serve was larger, we knew we could use the grains measuring chart to see how much of the pita bread we needed to serve to meet the minimum amount of grains required at CACFP meals and breaks. Our large step was to find the age of our participants in the meal. We're serving 3-year-olds at lunch, so we would choose the 1 through 5-year-old column. We follow the 1 through 5-year-old column down to the pita bread round row. If you look at where the 1 through 5-year-old column meets the pita bread/round row, it tells us that we need to serve 1/4 of the pita bread round to meet the minimum amount of grains required at snacks for this age group. So, with the gram pita bread, we saw that 1 pita round was 1 serving, and that 1 pita round weighed 57 grams. But sometimes, the nutrition facts label will list more than 1 item as a serving, such as sometimes you'll see 2 taco shells as 1 serving or 3 pancakes. Page 5 of the worksheet looks at what we do when that happens. So let's go ahead and take a look at page 5 now. The first step on page 5 is the same as the first step on page 1. We find the grain item and the minimum weight in the grains measuring chart. And so you notice that for on page 5, the example we're using here is pancakes. So we look at the row that says pancakes, and we find the minimum weight of at least 34 grams. The second step is to look at the weight of the serving size. On nutrition facts label, the weight listed is usually for 1 serving of the food. Looking at the label for gram pea pancakes, we see that 1 serving of gram pea pancakes weighs 117 grams. Our next step is to look at how many items are in 1 serving. Looking at the nutrition facts label, we see that there are 3 pancakes in 1 serving of gram pea pancakes. Step 4 tells us that if we have more than 1 item in a serving, we will need to divide to find out how much 1 item weighs. So because 1 serving of gram pea pancakes has 3 pancakes, we know we will need to divide to find out the weight of 1 pancake. We know from step 3 that 1 serving weighs 117 grams. There are 3 pancakes in 117 grams, so we divide 117 by 3 to find the weight of 1 pancake. When we do, we find that 1 gram pea pancake weighs 39 grams. So now that we know the weight of 1 pancake, we compare that weight to the weight of the pancake listed in the grains measuring chart. Okay, everyone, this is our last try it out polling question. Our question is 1 gram P pancake the same weight or heavier than the weight of the pancake in the chart? Go ahead and choose your answer in the polling box now, or enter it into the chat box. Great job, everybody. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, nice work, everyone. The answer is yes. 1 gram P pancake is the same weight or heavier than the weight of the pancake listed in the chart. We know this because 1 gram P pancake weighs 39 grams. The grains measuring chart lists pancake with a minimum weight of 34 grams. 39 is bigger than 34, so we know that 1 gram P pancake is heavier than the minimum weight for pancakes listed in the chart. So if the weight of the item you want to serve is the same weight or heavier than what's listed in the grains measuring chart, we can use the grains measuring chart to see how much of that item you need to serve to meet CACFP meal pattern requirements. So now we proceed the same way we did with all the other examples. So let's say you want to serve gram P pancakes to adult participants at breakfast. You would find the adults and breakfast column and then follow that column all the way down to the pancake row. If you look at where adults at breakfast, lunch, and supper column meet the pancake row, it tells us that we need to serve 2 pancakes in order to meet the minimum amount of grains required at breakfast for adult participants. And very quickly, I just wanted to point out that adults have different requirements for grain amounts at snacks versus meals. So if you want to serve grains at snacks to adult participants, you would need to serve at least 1 ounce equivalent, so you would use the middle column of your chart. But if you wanted to serve grains to adults at breakfast, lunch, or supper, you would need to serve at least 2 ounce equivalents of grains. So you would look at the chart that's on the column that's on the right side of your chart. And then one more thing just to know about this worksheet, as with most of our team nutrition materials, we will make this worksheet available in print in the next month or so. However, I know many of you are eager to start using this worksheet and may want to print these on your own. If you do, please make sure you print these worksheets at 100% on 8.5" by 11" paper so that these measuring guides are accurate. So in other words, so that the ruler on the bottom of your measuring guide actually measures 8 inches, and so that the squares and circles above the ruler are accurate as well. So, I know I've spent this entire time talking about all the times you could use this worksheet, but there are times this worksheet may not be appropriate for determining how much of a grain to serve. In those cases, you will need to use another tool, and on the next slide, we'll talk more about another tool that you could use. But first, times that you might want to use another tool instead of this chart are when an item you want to serve is not listed on this chart, or when an item you want to serve is smaller or lighter than what's listed in the chart, or if you don't know the size of the item. You may also want to use a different tool if you're serving a grain item to meet part of the grains requirement, such as if you want to serve a 1/4 ounce equivalent, or a 3/4 ounce equivalent, or 1.5 ounce equivalent, because the chart only lists amounts for 1/2 ounce equivalent, 1 ounce equivalent, and 2 ounce equivalents of grain. Additionally, while you could use this chart with grain items that are larger or heavier than what's listed in the chart, if you want to serve exactly what was required in the CACFP meal pattern, that might be another time you choose to use another tool. So one tool you could use is Teen Nutrition's Exhibit A Grains tool, which is part of the Food Buying Guide for Child Nutrition program. This tool is available from the web-based interactive version of the Food Buying Guide that you can access from your laptop or desktop computer, and that's shown on the left side of the screen. The Exhibit A Grains tool is also available from the Food Buying Guide app that you can download from the Google Play or Apple App Store for mobile devices. The Exhibit A Grains tool asks you to look at an item's nutrition facts label and enter information about the serving size in order to calculate how much of a grain item to serve. The Exhibit A Grains Tool to the Rescue webinar recording gives you details on how to use this tool. This recording is available at the web address you see on the screen. We'll also send this link to you in the post-webinar email as well. Additionally, the Exhibit A Grains tool has training videos on how to use this tool, and you can find it under the Help section of the Food Buying Guide. And so now, just to wrap up quickly before we move to questions, everyone who attends today's webinar for the entire 30 minutes will get a certificate via email by the end of the day on Monday, November 25th. Please wait until after November 25th and check your spam or junk mailboxes before asking about your certificates. If you're viewing the webinar with multiple people, you can also print out a certificate for each person. Additionally, more practice questions are available at the National CACFP Sponsors Association website at the web address you see on the screen, and of course we'll send that out to you as well. And we will also, you can also submit or track continuing education credits with NCA at that link. As we mentioned in the beginning, this webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the Team Nutrition website. Recordings from the previous 16 CACFP halftime webinars are also available on the Team Nutrition website, and again, we'll send you a link to that webpage in your post-webinar email. Team Nutrition has also created a series of training slides based off of CACFP 30 on Thursdays webinars. These ready-to-go presentation slides can be used to train providers, operators, and menu planners on the CACFP meal patterns. The web address is shown on the slide, and again, we'll send you that link as well. And finally, if you're a sponsor or independent center, you can sign up directly to become a Team Nutrition CACFP organization. If you're at a center or home under a sponsor, we encourage you to make sure your sponsor organization has signed up as a Team Nutrition CACFP organization. Enrollment is free, and members have the opportunity to network with peers, share ideas, and receive exclusive promotional materials such as Team Nutrition Discover New Foods decals that you see on the screen. And now we'll take some questions. So in the room with me is Katie Hallis, one of my child nutrition colleagues, who will be helping me with answering and asking some of your questions.
Okay, great job, Mimi. So we do have 3 minutes, so let's try to get through as many questions as we can.
You know, I can talk fast.
Okay, so the first one here, so we've heard a lot about ounce equivalents in the last few years. When do we actually have to start using ounce equivalents for grains in the CACFP?
That's a great question. So USDA encourages everyone in the CACFP to use ounce equivalents to measure grains starting now, as of today. So although CACFP sites are not required to use ounce equivalents until October 1st, 2021, it's great to start transitioning now so that you will be more than ready when the requirement takes effect in 2021.
Great, and I hope this worksheet helps them with that as well. Yeah. Okay, so the next question, so we do have here, so taco chips and Teddy Grahams are not listed on the chart, but are popular grains provider service snacks. Can these be added, or what is the corresponding grain item to use on the chart? So why don't we talk about taco chips first?
Sure. Well, so for both of these items, you know, they're credible in the CACFP. So let's talk about your taco chips. You know, credible meaning that they're whole grain rich, they're enriched, you're not serving them to infants because it's not developmentally appropriate. You know, and that you're able to still serve them in the CACFP. So you could use, they're not listed in the chart, but you could use the Exhibit A grains tool to figure out how much to serve, and also the same with the Teddy Graham. So, you know, if we included every single grain that was served in CACFP, this chart would be way bigger than 3 pages. So we really encourage you all to, you know, use some of the other tools that we have talked about in order to determine that, and also to work with your sponsor, the agency, for additional questions on that.
Okay, so it sounds like if it's not on the chart, we can use that great Exhibit A grade tool.
Yes, exactly.
And we'll send that link out after the webinar.
And also, I know that some states and sponsors may have started training using a different method. You can hand calculate it and things like that. So if you already know of another method, you can go ahead and use that as well.
Okay. Great. So we have, do you want to do one more question?
Sure.
Okay. So what about homemade items? Is this only for store-bought?
Oh, that's a great question. So yes, you may use this chart for homemade items such as homemade bread, rolls, muffins. And because homemade items will likely not have a nutrition facts label on them, this might mean that you have to weigh the food to make sure it meets the weight listed in the grains measuring chart. So that was a great question as well. So thank you all for all your great questions. If you have more questions or need more clarification on anything we discussed today, please contact your state agency or sponsor. And again, that's all we have time for, but please know that we do read all your questions and comments, as well as comments on the post-webinar survey, and in order to make sure our materials and trainings are really meeting your needs. So thanks again. We look forward to seeing you all at our next CACFP halftime webinar in June, where we'll explore the topic of mealtimes with toddlers. and that'll just look at how to implement the CACFP meal pattern for children from ages 1 year through 2 years. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you.